My name's Tim Heathcote,
I'm Simone Goldsmith.
and we're the founders of MDM Dancewear.
So my story for dance started when I was 5, like most little girls. I was sent to ballet school and I just never stopped. What I loved about it was the challenges.
I started dancing when I was 3 years old. My mum owned a ballet studio. It's basically all I've known since I was very young. All the time spent outside of academic school was in a ballet studio, and it was our life.
After my time at the ballet school, I was lucky enough to get into the Australian Ballet, where I spent my whole career. I danced with them for 11 years and I reached the rank of principal dancer.
I continued my career with Sydney Dance Company for not very long. I think I was 24 years old, and I'd only been a professional for 4 years at that time. And I had an incident in the studio where I tore a disc and cracked a rib. I ended up in hospital on morphine. That was basically the end of my career. It took me 12 months really of rehab to realise, and for doctors to tell me that it was probably something I wasn't going to recover from. I just remember feeling devastation. As I said, I started when I was 3, and to only have 4 years as a professional was pretty hard. And it had me questioning everything. How could I have done things differently? What could I have done when I was younger? How could I have worked a different way? What could I have been thinking while I was dancing to prevent this event 10 years in the future from happening, which was going to take my career away? And that's when I found a passion for injury prevention, and that's really what led us to develop this company in the way that we have. After my retirement from dance, I was searching for what it was that I wanted to do, and I was lucky to be offered a position at a dancewear company called Block. My main role at Block was to be the liaison between the company and the professional dancers. It was my responsibility to bring to the company what dancers want. So I spent a lot of time studying shoemaking. I ended up being responsible for the custom point shoe department at Block. That was a great experience. I travelled the world fitting ballerinas and visit Paris Opera, Royal Ballet, Royal Swedish Ballet, and ask them what it was that they wanted, and then go back to the factory and make it happen. And it was through that interaction with these professional dancers that I learnt how a shoe can affect a dancer's technique in such a subtle way. Simone and I always knew that this was something we wanted to do for ourselves. We knew that we had our own ideas that we wanted to bring into fruition. We decided to take a very big risk and start our own company. That's when MDM was born.
I'm fortunate enough to be a dance teacher now, and I absolutely love it. I love passing on my knowledge, but I'm very well aware too of the challenges that are set now for dancers. I mean, the world has opened up with the internet, and the competition is massively high, and the benchmarks just keep getting higher and higher. So I think the question that we had was, how can we support these dancers? How can we educate them? And we want to be part of that story. We want to initiate conversation for the development of intelligent dancers. We want them to think of their bodies and what they're doing with their bodies. And for us, it started with the shoe. It started with their feet.
The main focus of Muse Dancewear and the real passion behind the company is to develop what we believe was missing from the dancewear industry, and that is products that actually influence a dancer's technique, products that can strengthen dancers, products that can support dancers, and products that are more like a piece of equipment than just an accessory or a costume. So we set about tearing down some traditional walls and really questioning everything about what it was that we had on our feet. And the main culprit in our eyes was the traditional standard ballet slipper. This is an item that you wear on your feet that hasn't changed for more than 200 years. And we know from our experience that a piece of equipment, if it's designed properly, can influence the way a dancer works in a really positive way. We found that a traditional ballet slipper wasn't doing that. It was really just a foot covering, and it wasn't really playing a part in developing a dancer's technique. And it wasn't until I spent time in a dance shoe factory and I could see all these shoes coming off the production line that I realised that a full sole slipper isn't actually doing what we all think it's supposed to be doing. It does provide some resistance when the dancer points their feet, but as far as support goes, it's actually just a flat piece of leather, and they're not actually providing any support. What we wanted to do was design a shoe that did all the things that people thought a full sole ballet slipper did, but didn't. So I set out to design a shoe that actually did provide support and actually did provide resistance training. We basically built this support device. We call it dance-based support, and it serves three main functions. Number one, it's designed to mimic a full sole ballet slipper as far as resistance goes. So each time the dancer works their foot, this dance-based support will provide resistance, which helps them build muscle strength. Secondly, this dance-based support is moulded up into the arch, a little bit like an orthotic will support a foot. This works in a similar way. It has a gentle upwards resistance, which means you don't need quite as much muscle energy to support the body weight. This means that you'll fatigue slower and be less prone to injury. But the third feature, and I think probably the most significant feature, is that this dance-based support cups the heel. And the idea behind that is to guide the dancer to the correct straight alignment when they're standing in first position. It works a little bit like a racing car seat. So if you can picture a racing car driver in a racing car seat, it envelops their body and it points them straight ahead in the car. This works in a similar way, and it'll point the dancer straight ahead. If she or he starts to diverge from that alignment, the shoe will gently guide them into the correct position. It doesn't work like an orthotic in the way that an orthotic is a stiff device and it forces you into position. This is much more gentle, and it's a guidance, and it uses proprioception to tell the dancer the correct alignment.
The feedback that it can give a young dancer, even when they don't actually know what proprioception is, they can feel when they have their foot in the shoe if they are not in correct alignment. And this, of course, is a chain of connection that works up through their entire bodies. If they're correcting the alignment through their feet, they're also correcting and protecting through their knees, their hips, their back, their positions. I teach at a school here in Melbourne, and the entire school is in our MDM ballet shoes, and all the teachers have noticed such a change in the postural alignment of the children's feet. Dance is part of our DNA, it's who we are, and MDM is more than a business to us.